Welcome back to another session of Slain by Force, video series where we get to learn this machine that is the Force. If you're anything like me, like I said in the last video, you're a big Native Instruments fan. But again, like I said in the last video, Akai has just been killing me. They've been killing my desire to use the machine. So, I want to get some workouts on this machine that is the Force. Just inviting you along to join me on this journey as I become one with this machine that is the Force. So if you heard from the last video, you know what this is. These workouts are moderator led. I'm just your coach and your host, here to demonstrate or relay what's being done in the video, trying to get a workout and go beyond where I have kind of plateaued, with my production. One thing you should know, anytime you hear the word machine from the moderator, well, you're talking about this machine that is the Force. So when you hear machine, we're talking this machine that is the Force. Get it? All right, let's get it. Hey Vector, set a timer for 25 minutes. We'll do 25 minutes. If you're continuing with me from the last video, the first thing you have to do was turn on your machine, right? Ha ha ha. So let's turn on our machine.
Each of the different areas of the machine software. I might refer to this as the GUI, G-U-I. This is the graphical user interface.
All right. So today we're going to talk about the GUI, the graphical user interface. That's what it is when you open up this machine. This is the GUI, what you see when you open up the machine, the graphical user interface. And so, as we said in the last video, you can't even get to your browser without opening a project. So, we're going to start with an empty project, and we're going to get to really see our GUI. Okay, so now that you've opened up your project, again, empty projects open like this. That isn't quite what we're looking for, although this area is the GUI, the graphical user interface. So you have to push your menu to see the graphics within the GUI.
Basically what is known as the look of it. This is what you see when you're looking at the software. It's the GUI. Here is called your arranger. So the arranger is basically where the song happens.
Okay, so how do you get to the arranger? Obviously you can push the arranger and you can see it there.
And an arranger is broken down over a timeline. At the top here is the header. You can see the time here as if we would play through.
So at the top there is the header. You can see the time as it plays through. If you push play here, you can see the place of the song, of the track, if you will.
Let's just hit play and you can see the time going back and forth. So you're always going to be able to see your BPM, the swing amount. If I adjust the swing on the controller, you can see it.
We can't see our swing here, but if you hold the tempo button, oh no, you have to push the edit. Damn it. I'm not quite sure where that swing is. I know you hold it, the tempo. We'll find it.
automatically adjusting. Same thing with tempo. This is, you can see all the information like tempo, global swing, your time signature. So you can see, and this is your CPU, where you can see if things are getting pretty crazy and you're really taxing your system by using a lot of instruments and effects, you're going to see this thing getting higher and higher.
Alright, so if you want to see your CPU, you swipe down. That shows you your CPU bars. Again, you can see the placement of the track. You can see the BPM, the grid resolution, whether the loop is engaged or not. There we go.
Until it goes in the red, and then it tells you, hey now,
CPU.
you're hurting me here. So then you got to pull back a little. Down below that is the pattern editor. This is where the magic happens, I might say.
Alright, so let's go back to the matrix screen. And this is what I'd refer to as the pattern editor. And so if we go back to the clip area and push the clip button, create a new clip, you can see what happens within that pattern or clip.
This is where all of your patterns are created. Everything is sequenced right here in this area. But basically, this is where you're going to build your songs. So your different groups, you can keep adding multiple groups in here. And then your scene is going to be your different scenes are going to be your song. So,
all right, I think that there is the first distinction between the machine and this machine, that is the force. The machine is focused on groups. The force has tracks. And I think that that's the first thing that makes it confusing for people, makes it a little overwhelming. Again, the machine it's kind of a simple layout. There are groups, and the groups create the scenes. Well, here we have tracks, and our tracks create the scenes. And so you can have up to 8 audio tracks, and I think just as many MIDI clips, if you will. And so as we already know, the force starts out with audio track and a MIDI track. You can have up to 8 audio tracks, and I believe up to 8 MIDI tracks.
maybe your scene 1 is going to be your intro, and then a verse, and then a chorus, so on. Down here is your automation lane.
And so, if you want to see your automation lane, you go into the clip. You can see it right there.
And your velocities and everything like this, so your modulation area basically. Any changes over time you do, you're going to see them happen here. We'll explain this further as we go. Moving in the middle here is your control area. Parameters are mapped out already, and I can see them, and I can start turning them on the hardware right away. It's great. And you can visually see them here in the software. And then
And so again, this is our control area. And so whatever is lit up in there, if you push the knobs, you can change what the knobs control. But we'll get to that later.
Other thing I want to do is jump over to this section, which is the mix view. So we come over here and we can actually see all of our groups arranged by sound. If I double click here, we can just see the groups all together. If I double click again, we can get in to see the individual sounds within. If we come down here, we can see our I/O, our inputs and outputs, our settings for whatever inputs we're coming in from an external source or MIDI inputs.
So same concept for us. Here are our tracks. Again, right now I have a plug-in track. I have an audio track. I can open up another one and get a drum track. And within that drum track, you can see the ins and the outs, what's being done with that track, where the port is being sent to. You can go to the pan, you can see the levels, you can see whether it's going left to right, the sends, the effects. This is the mixer screen.
This kind of stuff. We can add plugins right from here.
Effects. Boom.
All this good stuff. Our level, our auxiliaries.
Pan.
Again, we'll explain this all. And then down here, we don't see anything yet because once you start loading in your different instruments and effects, anything inside a machine, you're going to see a nice handy little view here. And we can get into more detail and see what's all happening. For 5, I'm going to call them 5 sections with the mixer. this is where everything happens.
All right, so again, if you're following with me from the last video, we already went over the browser. Today we talked a little bit about the clip area, the arranger screen, the header, the mixer, and again, the matrix or the arranger area.
So on the main, it's really just the four main areas: your browser section, arranger,
Browser. So if we want to get to our browser, again, the quickest way to do that is push the load button. Boom, brings up our browser places. If you want to get to your arranger, push the matrix button.
control area,
Our control area is here with the knobs.
pattern area,
Again, our pattern area is the matrix area here. Or go to the clip area to see what's happening within that clip.
and I guess the modulation area too. So let's go.
In modulation within that clip, you push the triangle.
With 5. All right, now let's actually jump over and we're going to take a look at the hardware too.
All right.
Now that we have an idea about the software, we really have to look at Machine's hardware. This is the real treat to using Machine. This is an actual instrument. This feels like an instrument, so much so that people often ask me, the first time they see Machine, they'll say, so the sounds are built in here? And you have to explain, no, the sound is coming from the computer. This is hooked up to the computer.
All right. And so right there, that's what makes this machine, that is the Force, keep point, this machine that is the Force, so cool for me. No longer are the hardware and the software separated. Now I understand that Native Instruments has recently come out with the Machine Plus, and now the Machine is also standalone. But like I said before, I think they were 2 years too late. And I think that the Machine Plus as a hardware device is frankly lacking. The ability to only use a small SSD card? What the hell were they thinking? The Force lets you put a whole hard drive in it. I don't know.
Like I mentioned before, almost everything you do is going to be done from the hardware controller.
Again, everything we do can be done from this machine. No longer are the sounds and the hardware separated. That's what makes this so cool for me.
And that is what makes Machine so great. But it's really that integration, that tight integration between the hardware and the software that make Machine stand out. And in fact, I mean, we have an instrument, this hardware controller that was built for the software.
And so again, no longer is it a hardware controller that was built for the software. And that's what I've been saying here before. Again, I believe that Native Instruments' focus is sound design, and the controller was designed to use those sounds. And that's cool. I love Machine, I love their sounds. But now we have an instrument with sounds within it that were created to be used together, all in one box, if you will.
Not vice versa. This is why it works so well. And this is what people love about it. You have your volume, tempo, swing. These are all hardwired into the machine, so you never have to think about it. If it's too loud, turn it down. Very easy. You have all your parameters obviously laid out on 8 very easy to use knobs. You have your transport section down here. So loop, I'm not sure. Again, I have a really old Machine unit. You can see mine says F1 and F2. Yours probably says snap and auto write. This is like an old, I've been using.
So again, for us to see our loop, we have to go to our arranger. Actually, it's right there. You can see it. There's the loop, and if you push right there, you can engage it, disengage it. There's our tempo button. All that.
Using this since before Machine even came out, and that's a good testament. This thing still works like day one. So this is a very durable piece of hardware.
Like I said in the last video, Machine has been out for over 10 years. So that says a lot about that machine, right? This one has been out for, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 years. And there are a lot of glitches with it from what I hear. A lot of people are often complaining about how it freezes up on them, what happens with it. How are you, how has your experience been with the Force? Have you updated to the new 3.23? Me? No. My thing isn't always about getting the update, going for the next update, trying to do the newest and whatever. I'm beyond that. That's like gas syndrome. Right now, I want to learn how to use this device to its fullest. And as they improve this device and make updates to it, of course I'll update. But I'm going to let them make their updates. I'm going to let other people fight the updates. And I'm going to use this current version to the best of my ability.
So when we look at the hardware, let's actually kind of break down the main parts. Most importantly, probably are your pads and your groups. So the group is like your track, right? The group has 16 sounds inside of it, and a sound can be anything.
Okay, again, we don't have groups, we have tracks. And so, like I've said, the Force starts out with a plug-in track, an audio track, and then you have to load your drum track. And within that drum track, let's go back and load. If you were here with me from the last time, you know how to do that. I'm just going to pick a random one. Amplified funk. Drum kit. Boom. And we're going to load that. All right. Now, we go back to our clip matrix. We still can't see that drum kit, right? So again, you have to push note mode and you can see the sounds within that kit. So like the moderator's saying, a drum track can have up to 16 sounds. Right here you can see that this kit only has 9 sounds.
A sound can be a sample, it can be a virtual instrument, it can be a loop, it can be an effect, it can be a bus, it can be a recording platform, whatever you want really. And we'll get more into that as we go. But just know that each group has your 16 sounds. If we start at the top though, this is your control area. This is where you're going to function through moving around the various parts of machine. Whether we are in the arrange view, and we can obviously see our entire song, and we can scroll through it with the jog wheel if we like. Whether we're in mix view, and we can actually see a dedicated mixer section for all of our sounds. Browsing through the sampler with the wonderful, beautiful...
All right, so obviously again we talked about the GUI, and you know how to change your view of the GUI. You can push the clip to see the clip view, go back to launch mode so you can see our clips, or you can push the navigate button and go to the clip from there, and then go back to clip. That didn't work, but let's put select. Now you can see that clip. You go back to matrix, you can see your matrix screen. You can push mixer, see your mixer view.
looking sampler now.
Again, if you want to see the clip view, let me go back.
You can see there's thumbnails on the Machine Studio.
Okay, and again, if you want to see your browser, you push the load button. Go to see your expansions with the browser view. You push expansions.
Or going into the sampling mode and seeing different options for everything right here.
Go back to the clip to see what's happening within the sample. So let's go back to our drum track. Go back to note mode and let's select one of those. And if you push shift and clip, you can see what's happening with the individual sample. Boom. So that's the sample view. So you can push select and see the individual samples.
distinction there. Next, we have our performance area. So, for instance, you can tap your tempo out here. You can hold down tap and actually adjust your tempo from where we're at 127 all the way up down wherever you want to go.
Wherever you want.
Step mode to actually enter step sequencing, which we'll talk about. Macro controls that will actually allow you to map nearly any parameter into a unified macro control for easy use.
Now we can also map things with macro controls, and you do that within the knobs. I haven't really done much of that, but we're going to, obviously, through these workouts. Stick with me.
This is really helpful for live use, or just, anything you want to control right away. It's one button push away. You don't have to be going through multiple menus that way. Note repeat, this allows you to repeat a note at a specific.
We don't have note repeat, but we have the art button, right? So if you push launch and note at the same time, you can split the matrix in half. So it will be a clip launch on the top half, and the bottom half will give you access to your drum pads. So on the art button, let's load up. On the art button, you hold art. It's a repeat. We don't have note repeat, we have art.
Time value. Down here is your transport controls. Transport is always your play, record, stop, start, erase.
Our transport controls are obviously in the top left corner. Play, stop, record, undo, hold shift and push undo, and it's now redo, load, save, matrix, clip, mixer. We've been in there a few times. And again, the navigate button.
Simple functions for undoing things. You saw before I added a couple patterns. I wanted to undo them. You can instantly just undo or redo as much as you like. Copy and paste functions, moving notes around, nudging things on your sequencer timeline, clearing things out altogether, and quantizing. All dedicated knobs, which is very easy. On the Machine Mark II or the Micro, it's a shift function, and then there will be extra options on the pads that will do all these same things.
And so again, we have mostly dedicated knobs for all of those functions, but shift does work quite a bit on this for us. In some ways, I think areas that aren't even marked, because I see Easter eggs and I still ain't even seen some of them Easter egg areas. So if you're watching this video and you can share with me some of your tips and tricks how to get to some of those Easter eggs, please do.
It's very, very simple to use. And then lastly, the jog wheel on the Studio is really helpful for moving around your sequence or your arrangement, maybe mixing something. So you can see I'm turning down the volume on this.
And so obviously our jog wheel works the same way. Our jog wheel works with what is highlighted. So I got the velocity box, the parameter box highlighted right now. So if I change the jog wheel, it'll change what's happening. If I pick the header box, it will change where the track starts. That's how it works. Change the loop length. There you go. So our jog wheel works with what is highlighted.
Maybe browsing through different categories, and you can actually move through different types back and forth and be able to get through here. Very simple. And you can also do extra functions for the jog wheel: tuning, swing, volume, etc. So again, a very hands-on instrument. This is something you really want to be doing most of your work from the controller.
And so now you have to use the machine that is the force. No longer is it separated between the hardware and the software. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I understand that the Machine Plus is now standalone, but they haven't even made it so that all of their plugins work in their standalone system. So I don't know about y'all, but to me that's a big drawback. And while Akai just keeps improving this machine that is the force, Native Instruments just keeps working or focusing on sound design. And while that may have been good and may still be good, it may be time to refocus on what the people want. Just a thought, just my thought. I don't know nothing.
Down here, these are very important buttons, and they'll be used tremendously. Mute. You can see when I mute things, I can mute out certain sections, certain sounds, certain pads, and it's very helpful to see what you're actually muting out. And you can also mute out entire groups altogether. And the same thing goes with solo. You can specifically solo just one thing or one group. Select allows you to actually select multiple pads.
Select.
Select them all, select none. Duplicate, you can actually copy and paste very quickly. We'll show you how to do this. Navigate is
Obviously, we don't have a duplicate, but we have a copy, and it works the same way.
very helpful. Say if I'm on the sampler settings and I want to go through the different pages on my control area, you can see here in the software. As we scroll through, you can just jump to a specific area rather than jumping through with the pads here.
And so the same way for us, navigate works pretty good. Like say you're in launch mode and maybe you're too far down, you can't see what's happening or something like that. You can push navigate and bring your launch area back to where you want. And that's pretty cool, right? That's how the most effective way I've found to use the navigate button. That's my 25 minutes. All right. Hey Vector. Hey Vector. Cancel timer. All right, guys. That's my 25 minutes. That's it for this workout. That's it for this session of Slaying by Force. Thank you guys for checking me out. I hope you guys found that session informative. If you did find that informative, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Come check me out for the next one. We'll continue where we left off. I'll see you then.